let us explore a key concept that affects every organization, every company, and even the teams that you are part of, if you are already working or you have worked earlier. Yes, we are talking about organization design. Organization design simply means how we will set up people, processes, or systems to achieve our business's goals effectively as well as efficiently. If you're already working, then you will be seeing this every day in your workplace, whether it is a startup or a government office. The structure, leadership, rules, and culture, all these things come under the organization's design. So, the whole organization structure or organization design can be broken down into three main parts. Okay, we can break the entire session into three major parts. What are they? First is the evolution of organizations design. Then the we will talk about the three universal models of organization design, and last we will talk about the modern or the second generation designs, organization design. Okay, so these are the three things that we'll be discussing throughout the session. So organization design, as you must have guessed it, have evolved over time. While we were talking about the frameworks of uh, organizational theory, right? When we were talking about the historical aspects, we talked about the pre-classical era, right? The prehistoric ancient times. Then we spoke about the classical theories. Then we shifted our focus on neoclassical theories and then the modern theories. So in that itself, you must have got an idea that things were not like it just fell out of the sky one fine day, right? It evolved over time. Similarly, organization design also evolved over time. When we saw that, we saw in that session, in unit number two session, we said that pre-classical era, the ancient civilizations at that time, though we can see a lot of wonderful marvels that were created at that time all around us, Stonehenge, pyramids, Taj Mahal. Okay, Taj Mahal is not prehistorical era, but when we talk about the theories right now, the classical theory onwards is like from the 19th century. So maybe yeah, you can think of it Taj Mahal also, but generally like the Chola temples or Qutub Minar or yeah, Stonehenge, the Easter Island heads, all these things, massive structures. Definitely, it might have taken some organization, some kind of forming up collective of people should be there to do all those things, right? I don't think it also fell out from the sky one fine day. God knows. So at that time, the organizational design were much more rigid. Or even if you come a little bit closer during the classical time, the time where the factories and steam engine, those kind of things arose in England, right? Um, at that time also, the manufacturing plants and everything had a very rigid structure. And then almost treating human beings as another resource, not almost, definitely treating human beings as just another machine or things like that by the rich people, by the owners of such uh, organizations. From there, we had a shift to a little bit more adaptable approaches like the neoclassical approach. So, like this, only organization design, while these management theories were developing, with those management theories, the organization's structure also evolved. So, initially, it was all about hierarchy, control, and all, but over time, the organizations, that is, the managers, did realize that they need to consider people, flexibility, technology, strategy, all those things, and therefore accordingly, flexible adaptive models have been created right now. So now let us look at the three generations of design. The first generation focused on structure. The idea was to create order and control. So therefore, there were rigid systems like our government departments or the old PSUs that we still have. They all have the bureaucratic models which ruled the scene. Next, the second generation, during the neoclassical era, the structure evolved. It began to include human behavior, culture, and leadership. So, because there was a realization that structure is not enough alone, people's motivation and informal communication also mattered. How did we get to know that? Think about the Elton Mayo's Hawthorne studies and all, right? We'll talk about it later also in detail. Then came the third generation. these are modern designs like startups, tech firms, remote teams that we can see right now around us. So these organizations, what are they doing? They're using technology, they have cross-functional teams, and more or less a very flat hierarchy, especially when you think about startups and things like that. They have a flat hierarchy. Everybody is equally important. There is nothing like I am the boss, you should do what I say. That kind of thing, if a startup does, then most probably it might, go down or something like that. And not every firm is suitable for that. So they are very agile basically, and they are strategy driven. Okay, so those were the three generations of organizational design. Now we also need to know three major perspectives of organization design that are considered universal. Okay, these are the classic models or the first generation models that of organization design, and this is something that every one of us as managerial students, especially in the HR specialization, we have to know about it. The three models are the bureaucratic model, something that you can still see in government sectors and all. This was proposed by Weber. Then the second one is the behavioral model, which is proposed by Elton Mayo, and the third is the contingency perspective, which was proposed by Henry Mintzberg. In these three, if you would ask me, I would say contingency perspective is the most important because it is highly relevant even now. These are all models which we have studied in the past semesters, so it is not something new to you, but still for the sake of clarity and continuity with whatever we are going to discuss later on in the session, I'll give you a short overview. Okay, so what is the bureaucratic model? It is the most, or you can say, out of all these three first generation models, bureaucratic model, which is proposed by Max Weber, is the oldest of the three. And also it is the most formal model. Why? Because it focused on hierarchy, rules, procedures. Each person in a bureaucratic organization, bureaucratic structure has a clearly defined role, and there is a chain of command. Decisions follow strict procedures. So therefore, that is the reason why this model works well in very stable environments where tasks are routine and repetitive, like the government departments or any public sector banks or railway systems. They work best with this bureaucratic structure. So therefore, there are advantages also of this kind of a model for such very what you can say routine kind of organizations, because there will be clear responsibilities assigned to the people working there, and there will be because it is having that clear chain of command and formality within it. It will be very efficient in the routine tasks. It's like it's like the people over there are kind of like cogs in a machine. They just keep on working, and therefore, because the tasks are routine and the people do the same tasks every day, there is efficiency. At the same time, there is predictability also in the outcomes. But at the same time, it doesn't come without any disadvantages. Can you think of any disadvantage of such a bureaucratic model? Think about going into a government office to get something done. സർക്കാർ കാര്യം പുറ പോലെ എന്ന് പറയും. That is government things that we have to get done by the government will happen in its own time. That is what is the English translation of that. So what does that mean? It means that the things that are done in a bureaucratic organization, you should not be expecting that there is going to be a drastic change in how things get done in that particular place very in the very short time, right? It is a very because it is a very rigid structure that it is going to be a little bit slow because say for example you submit an application, it will go to the first level clerk, then he or she will move it to his or her superior, then that person has to clear it and it will go to the next level, next level, next level. Finally, when the approval comes, maybe even you will not need it anymore. Like that slowness is there. So and that slowness is coming because of this rigid structure. This kind of a model is not suitable for an organization which hopes to work in a very dynamic environment. It is not very suitable for change. And employees also have very little say in the decisions that happen in a bureaucratic organization. So, to summarize, if and only if your organization needs order, discipline, and a repeatable output, you can go with a bureaucratic structure. But when you do that, please don't expect speed or innovation. Okay, so that is about bureaucratic model. Now let us shift our focus to the behavioral model. We did the bureaucratic model. Now let us shift our focus to the behavioral model, which is proposed by Elton Mayo. So you remember Elton Mayo's Hawthorne experiments? what happened over there? Uh, this model, according to this model, from the findings of Hawthorne experiments, what Elton Mayo concluded is that people were not machines. Wow, what a realization. At least now they knew people were not machines, right? So you can't, so what led to it? Because when he conducted all sorts of experiments, he realized that you can't just put forth a rule and expect that everybody is going to conform to it and you can expect performance. But at the same time, if you focus on relationships, motivation, and even group dynamics, then that combined with rules, you can expect performance. So, Hawthorne experiments found that workers perform better when they are listened to, when they are also involved in the working of the organization, and especially respected. So, in this model, the focus shifted from the formal structure of the bureaucratic model to the informal structure, informal relationships, how teams work together, how communication flows, and how motivated employees feel. So, can you think of any advantages of this particular model? If you thought employee engagement will become better, yes, that is right. Communication becomes better if you have, if you thought, then yes, that is also right. Because of teamwork, productivity improves. All these things are advantages of such a behavioral model. So all is good. No disadvantages. Can you think of any disadvantages? What will happen if you put such a model in a very large organization? It's going to put a little bit difficulty in the controlling aspect of it, right? In the measuring aspect of the performance, how these changes have affected, did they make the organization better or not? These kind of control or measuring becomes difficult. Similarly, when you think about a behavioral model in a very large organization, it could lead to a lack of formal discipline, which may not be the best, right? So it is a very good model, behavioral model, but it comes with its own challenges. How we can best measure things and all becomes a little bit hard. But even then, this behavioral model is very much relevant in today's service industries, in BPOs and customer facing roles, where team morales directly affect the performance. Coming to the third model, that is the contingency perspective. As I said earlier, if you ask me which is the most important of these first generation models, I'll say contingency model, which is proposed by Henry Mintzberg. This says this model says that there is no one best way to design any organization. Why? Because the right structure depends on the situation, on the strategy, the environment, the technology, the tasks that that organization hopes to perform. Let me repeat once again. I want you to take note of this. There is no one size fits all. Very, very, very important here. Your organization's design have to fit the external and internal conditions of your organization. So accordingly, Mintzberg has identified 5 key elements that has to align in order to make sure that your organization has the best organizational structure for itself. What are they? Structure, I'll just write it down here. Structure, technology, tasks, environment, and strategy. According to Mintzberg, for to create the best organizational structure, you need to make sure that your organization structure aligns with the technology, the tasks, environment, and strategy. If all these 5 things are in alignment, then you will have an optimal organization design. So what it means is that, say you are a startup. Okay, say you are an IT startup. And let's say artificial intelligence is the buzzword right now, right? So let us consider that you are an AI kind of a startup. If you right now, if you would have set up an AI kind of a startup maybe 20, 30 years ago, the environment may not have been that suitable, right? Because it is not that much of a thing. There were not, the technology at that time was also not that developed as we can see today, might not have worked, right? At the same time, let's say that right now the technology and everything has caught up. Now everybody is behind AI. But if you try to create that AI startup, with a bureaucratic structure. Do you think it's going to work? No, right? So, depending upon what your end goal is, what you hope to achieve, what are the tasks you are going to perform to achieve that, depending upon the environment in which, both internal as well as external environment in which you are operating, they should all align. Only then you are going to get the best. Now, according to Mintzberg, there are five organizational types, five ideal types of organizational structure, which he has identified as to suit different situations. Okay. Now, let's say you have, as I said just now, you are creating a small startup. It's not going to be a very big one. Maybe it is directly run by the owner itself, like you itself, maybe with minimal rules and an informal setup. Say you are creating a roadside shop or something like that. It is also an organization, right? Um, so let's say you're setting up some organization, like a roadside stand or a small shop. You might not have the resources to, employ a lot many people over there yet. So maybe you or maybe one of your family members may come and sit over there in cash. Maybe you are the only person who is there to, get the cash when the customers come, take whatever items they want and pack it and all those things. You are a one-man show over there. In that case, what would be the best structure for you? Very simple one, right? Because it's just you. There are minimal roles and you are the owner also. So it is always better to stick with a very simple structure. So a simple structure of simple organizational structure is best suited for owner-led organizations, which are kind of like informal as well, like startups. But let's say you are in the government, you are in charge of some department, and you can set up some new office over there. Definitely, you will go for something that is more formalized and efficient. Or maybe you are going to set up some, let's say, bottle manufacturing plant or something like that. Then definitely it will be better that you pick up a machine bureaucracy, because it will be much more better if your organization follows strict rules, formal procedures, and a clear hierarchy. Then let's say the work of your organization is going to be done by highly trained professionals who have the freedom to make decisions, like hospitals or law firms or universities, where specialized knowledge is critical. In that case, you will go for something called as professional bureaucracy. Okay. And let's say, on the other hand, you are going to develop or you are going to create an organization which might require constant change, like tech companies or research and development teams or creative agencies, like some ad agency or something like that, dynamic. The structure of such organizations will be dynamic. We focus on innovation there, and it has to be flexible also. So, in order to put forth the best work in such environments, you better go for something called as adhocracy. Adhocracy is best for creative, flexible organizations. Whereas, if decisions are often driven by power or internal conflict, like crisis situations or unstable environments, then it is better you have a political structure for your organization, which is power based. It is highly unstable, best suited when there is a crisis or something like that. But yeah, this is also one of the types of organization forms that Mintzberg has identified. So, according to this model, if you are putting a startup in, say, technology or something like that, you better choose adhocracy. But if you are going to run a manufacturing plant, then better go for a machine bureaucracy type of structure. So those were the classic models. Now let us move on to the modern way of looking at organizations design. Okay, let us look at the second generation models. Now, second generation models go beyond just the structure and roles, but and they look at the overall alignment of people, the culture, the technology, the leadership, and strategy. There are four major parameters of such second generation models. First is the culture. You remember culture? If you did listen to the unit number 3, you would remember it. Culture is like the DNA of the organization. It is all about shared values, beliefs, and behaviors. It shapes how people think, act, and interact. If you have a culture that supports trust, innovation, and collaboration, then your organization can grow faster. Like, take the example of Google. Google encourages openness and creativity. That is part of their culture, and you can see how it has helped Google grow. Second aspect is the leadership. Leadership sets the direction of an organization. If your organization has good leader who can provide clarity, inspire teams, and handle changes effectively, your organization is having a very good structure, right? Like, let's take for example Narayan Murthy. He didn't just create Infosys' structure, he shaped the organization, its vision, his ethical culture, all those things. So, a great structure without great leadership is like a car without a driver. Now, when I say car without a driver, maybe you are thinking, no, there are self-driving cars. You don't need a driver in a car. Which era are you living? Okay, if you're thinking like that, let me tell you, self-driving cars or not, whether you have a human being as a driver in the driving seat or not, driver is there. Okay, without a driver, a car cannot steer itself. When you talk about self-driving cars, man, the driver is the computer system that is there inside. Okay, it just changed the roles from, it just took that job of driving from a human and gave it to the computer. It is not that there is no driver, it's just that you cannot see the driver anymore. Okay, so that is why a great structure, I will definitely compare it with a car that doesn't have a driver. Okay, now, the third point is technology. You cannot ignore tech today, right? It supports communication, decision making, automation, analytics, A to Z. We need technology for everything. Can you think of some day that, or any way that you can do a wonderful business without making use of your phone or social media or anything? No, if you do that, nobody is going to know about your organization, maybe not even your neighbor, right? So technology is very important, but at the same time, technology can has to match your business needs. You can't automate everything just for the sake of it, right? Say you are in charge of a supply chain firm. Okay, a supply chain firm means it needs logistic software. Is it going to help you if you have a banking software? Or if is it going to help you because let's say you are running a supply chain firm and you have a lot of softwares in your computer which helps you do collaborations or creative development like Photoshop and all. Is it going to help you? No, right? So that is why at the same time you take a creative agency like an head agency or something like that. Is it going to help them if they have a lot of databases and Java, Python, stuff like that installed? No, they need Photoshop or Illustrator or something like that, Krita, whatever, depending on the organization, right? They need that. They need that kind of a technology. They won't do well with any kind of logistic software or coding tools. So that is why I say technology has to match our business's need. Just because we can automate everything right now doesn't mean that we should. Okay, we should think. We should stop and think. Like you remember Jurassic Park, the classic dialogue, Jeff Goldblum. Your scientists did not stop to, what is the dialogue? Oh my God, let me recollect it. Yeah, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should. The line that Dr. Malcolm is saying while he was looking at the lab, right? So he delivered it in a much wonderful way, I know. But yeah, that is technology. It is the same thing with technology. Then the fourth point, the fourth parameter of second generation design is the strategy alignment. This is the, like I said earlier also, like Mintzberg's, while we were talking about the contingency theory also, we were talking about this alignment of strategy, structure, technology, tasks, environment, all these things. So this is something that has flown over from previous models. So this is a constant there. Okay. So there has to be alignment. This is the most important principle of all the principles that we've spoken so far. Strategy alignment. Okay. Your organization's structure must support your business strategy. If your strategy is to cut cost, then better have a structure that is efficient and standardized. But at the same time, if your strategy is to innovate, then better have an organization structure that is flexible. So remember, structure has to follow strategy. Structure has to follow strategy. Now, if you ask me, two key takeaways from this session. Anu, tell me 2 points that I must remember at the end of this session. Then I will say the first thing is Mintzberg's uh, what Mintzberg said while we were talking about the contingency perspective. There is nothing like one best way to design an organization. Always keep that in mind. There is no one best way to design an organization. If you are an ad agency, just don't go blindly copying some other ad agency structure. Look at you, look at what you have, look at your finances, look at the direction, look at your vision, mission, look at the people and their skills that you have, look at the technology you can afford, and accordingly set a structure. Okay, and the second important point is this about this strategy alignment. This is the second important point. So what, no, there is no one size fits all. And the second most important point from this entire session is that there has to be strategy alignment. You must adapt your design based on your strategy, your environment, the people and technology. Because in today's world, flexibility, alignment, leadership, all these things matter more than just a structure of your organization. So I hope that when you become managers or you lead projects, you will not ask what the standard structure is, but rather you will ask what structure is going to help us achieve our goals the best, given our situation. Okay, so that is it for Unit 4. Thank you so much for tuning into Anu's Classroom. Happy learning.